Hello and welcome to Beyond Loss, Loving Life with Karen Chaston. I am Karen Chaston and I am so glad to be here. You've been watching my show for the last few weeks. You've probably noticed I've got my glasses on and my voice is a little bit croaky, but guess what? The show must go on. And of course, I'm by myself today, so it's not even as though I can just hand the reins over to someone else. So I'm really glad that you're all here. I have really been enjoying my past 3 shows. This is my 4th. And I'm also very grateful for everyone commenting and being here and everything like that. So excuse my appearance. I normally wear contact lenses, but I've just got a little bit of an eye infection. So I'm back to my glasses for today. So let's begin. Today is you and me and open to all questions. But I've also got a little PowerPoint sort of slide deck that we're going to go through because, this show is all about Beyond Loss, Loving Life with Karen Chaston. And today I thought we'd deep dive into why we actually suffer so much when any sort of loss event comes into our lives. Most of us don't even realize that there are over 40 different loss events that can affect our lives. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do what? Is this the one? Yeah, that's the one there. I'll shrink myself and we'll have a look at the slides soon. Kerry Addison, I give permission. Okay, hello. I'm not 100% sure what that means, Kerry, but I'm glad you're giving me permission or you're giving yourself permission to show up. So good on you. And thank you for being here. So as I said, today we're going to do a little bit of a slide deck. We're going to go into why we suffer so much when loss comes to visit. And it's really important for us to know that because there are over 40 different loss events. So let's get started. Let's see if it works. Yes, it does. So love and loss, that is our journey through life. It's an infinite journey of where we actually go from love to loss and loss to love and back and forward, as Dee has just said in the comments. Hi, Dee. She's looking forward to it. She's had 5 losses in the past 4 years and she's struggling. I'm glad you're here, Dee. I'm not going to say I'm glad you're suffering because that wouldn't be very nice. But more importantly, we can move beyond. So let's have a quick look at, what I've got to talk about today, and then we can go from there. I've purposely called my business Live, Love by Design because most of us don't take the time to design a life where we can live and love each and every day. I know, I was well into my 50s before I even started to do this. And I'm pretty sure most people are pretty similar. They sort of just let life take them along and they don't sit back and design their life. And that's why I sort of feel there are so many loss events. It's like a pivotal moment in your life for you to sort of stop and to look at your life and go, you know what? This has happened. What does it mean for me now? And what does it mean for me moving forward? And how can I create a life that I will live and love each and every day? And, as Dee's just said, she's lost her little girl. Well, for me, it was my youngest son. He was my youngest by a minute. He was a twin and his name was Daniel. And, my husband and I never, ever expected that. But I have found the gift in his passing, and I understand a lot of people go, what do you mean there's a gift in his passing? It's not the gift in him actually passing. It's the gift in who I become after that event. And that's what I love to share with people, is how you can take all of your losses and assist you to design a life that you can live and love each and every day. Hi, Mike from California. Nice to see you here. So as I said, there's over 40 different loss events that can affect our life, which is so huge when you think about it. Here they are. I'm going to actually go big screen on this one so that you can actually just see it. So have a look at all of these loss events. And, when you start to look at them, you will see, as Dee said earlier, she's had several in the last few years. But I'm sure when she looks at this list, she'll probably actually even see that there's a lot more than what she thought. Because a lot of the times we don't even realize that some of these things can be a loss event. Have a look. Type into the chat some of the loss events that you've had and some that you didn't even realize were even a loss event. There's so many of them there. And today I am going to take us on a journey into understanding why we grieve and suffer so much. And it's not just a loss of a loved one, as you saw. There's so many different things that can happen in our lives. It could be a death of a loved one, or it could be your marriage or your partnership, your job, your health, your wealth, and so many other things. It could even be, sorry, I'm just reading that. Her baby girl was her chihuahua. But you know what? It is your pets. I was going to say your pets because your pets are, the only relationship in your life which is unconditional love. And it's drastic when they pass because who else sits there in silence and lets you talk and loves you unconditionally? There's not many other, is there? Thanks, Dee, for clarifying that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, as I said, we're going to figure out why we all suffer. No, wrong way. Let me get it the right way there. Why we suffer so much, because it's really important for us to understand why we suffer so much. And then what we can do is we can go from there and we can figure out how we can live and love our lives. So why do we suffer so much? So let's have a look at this. Let me just get this happening again. Okay, so what causes our pain? So if you have a look at this little diagram, which I just so love. So the loss event happens, and then our unconscious mind goes into what I've called the unconscious mind loss loop. Okay, so we start asking ourselves all of these questions, which most of the time we don't even realize we're asking ourselves these questions. We're just having these emotions run rampant in our body and we don't understand it. So it could be questions like, I wish I had, or why did I, or why didn't I, or why did they, or why didn't they? There's so many things that happen in our relationships. And a lot of the time, they can be things that, the actions that we've caused or the inactions that we've caused, or even the postponements. So one thing that I've noticed about the current situation that we're all in, this pandemic, is it really highlights that you should have no postponements in your life. Like now, the present is the only thing that you have. So if you continually keep putting things off and you continually keep, I'll do it when, and I'll do it when, and I'll do it when. Well, when never comes. So it's really important for us to understand that in our relationships, we have hopes, dreams, and aspirations. So make those things happen now, because we don't know when our relationships are going to end, whether it's through death or whether it's through divorce or a job loss, your health or your wealth. It's really important that you start to do things right now, which is what I love. So our beliefs can be a reason why we suffer so much. Now, you may have noticed that we have never really been taught how to move beyond loss. Most of us have been taught how to love, but there's not many of us that have been taught how to move beyond loss. So over the centuries, probably thousands and thousands of centuries, when loss comes into our life, we have created these beliefs and these sayings and these cliches on how we can easily move beyond loss. I'm even going to share with you later on the most ideal thing for you to say in any loss scenario. And most of us sort of go to the, I'm sorry for your loss. And in my opinion, that is not the most ideal thing to say. I don't get it, right? I probably said it before Dan's passing, but after it, when it was continually said to me, even like 9 years later, I'm sort of like, I don't get it. Like, I say I'm sorry when I've done or said something wrong, and I'm sorry for it. So I don't get it when this person who I may have just met and I'm telling him or her about Dan's passing and they say, I'm sorry for your loss. So, yeah, so keep typing all your things into the comments and I'll come back to them every now and then. So it's really important for us to understand not only the things that we're saying and doing around loss, but also what are our beliefs and start to question them. You know, it could be beliefs like, just a sec, let me go back here. I'm having fun with this. Right, it could be beliefs like, wait on, I've got to click here as well, all this clicking and stuff. But anyway, we're getting there. Could be things like, just give it time, right? Or it could be keep busy or grieve alone in isolation or replace your loss. You know, how many times, you know, Dee, with you saying that you lost your chihuahua, you know, a lot of people say, well, just replace your loss. And it's not the same. Sure, they may give you the comfort and the love, but you still have this one-to-one relationship with your previous pet or your previous job or whatever it is. And then, of course, it's like you've got to be strong for others. Like, why? It's about you. I've said this before on this show is you are the only person that you are going to spend your entire life with. So why are you giving up on yourself and putting yourself last all the time instead of bringing yourself up and living and loving your life? So if you're going to be strong for others, what about yourself? Who's going to be there for you? It's about everyone helping themselves to understand loss so that you don't have to be strong for others. Everyone just knows how they can move beyond loss and create their better everyday life. And that's not disrespecting someone, whether they're in this room or the next. It's just respecting the fact that we're all here for a certain amount of time. We all have a purpose. We all have a life to live. And it's about knowing that your life is just as important as someone else's. So if you're continually putting your life on hold because you're grieving and suffering someone else, what about your life? That's my question to you. That's what I'd really love for you to start to think about. And then one of the other things, which was just said to me quite recently, and I found it, I don't know, I'm having a hard time with it, so I'd love for you to explain it. And the comments was, if you truly love someone, you'll never get over their passing. Now, I probably find that a really unusual comment, mainly because I believe that we are here for a finite time, but we are infinite beings, spiritual beings, and we will go on forever and ever and ever, and we will meet up with that person again. And they are traveling with us. They're guiding us. You know, Dan's in my head all the time. I'm convinced that he is the one that has got me to become a beyond loss expert so that I can help people to move beyond, so that I don't have to suffer so much. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a look at some questions and answer them. And then we'll come back to this. So I'll come back to here. All these buttons I've got to press. Wait on, let me come back to here. Right, here I am. So let's have a look at all your comments. And I'm so grateful that you're all here. So let me see. Okay, I'm going way back to the beginning. Right. I think I said hello to Brenda. I said hello. Let me come down here. Yeah. Okay. And to Mike. Okay. Loss is everywhere and it's roped me out of my comfort zone. I totally get that, Dee. But it's because of what I'm explaining today. It's our beliefs and the cliches and the ways that we all feel that we should know how to do this, but we've never been taught how to do it. And that's why it rips you out of your zone. Once you understand how to do something, you just do it. And it ends up becoming a habit. And that's what I feel is a part of my mission, is to help people to understand there is a process. There's a 5-step process that I help people to understand to move beyond any kind of loss. And then when loss comes again, and it will, because there's over 40 different kinds of losses, you go, oh, right, I know how to do this. I can move beyond it. And it doesn't have to take time. And you don't have to keep busy. You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to replace the loss or be strong for everyone else, or know that, well, if you do actually move on and live and love your life, you still are loving and respecting if it's the loss was a loss of a loved one. And that's what we need to understand. The things that we say to other people are these cliches and beliefs which are stopping people from moving along and loving their life. And I know you can tell I'm a bit passionate about this. Okay, so Brenda, I lost my beautiful mum 7 years after nursing her. Good on you for looking after her. That's like, you did put your life on hold to help her. So good on you. Especially when I... Start journaling, Brenda. I find that, look, and I do a lot of spiritual work. The more I actually talk to Dan, the more I journal my feelings, and the more I see him around me all the time. He sends me so many signs. And actually, a really good one is you have to love the cameras that we have now with the iPhones or any of the smartphones. The fact that you can zoom in on any photo, you'll be amazed what you can see in photos, especially when it's a family event. Start to zoom in on them. Like Dan's twin brother got married a couple of years ago, and he got married in 2 places because his wife's Polish and also in Australia. So in both sets of photos, we could see Dan, and also my dad for that matter, in the photos. So it's really important for you to understand they are always around you, and you can talk to them. They will actually answer you. And the more that you get in tune with your body, you will learn to understand the differences between a thought and the wisdom from beyond, and which your wisdom as well, so your inner wisdom. So it's really important that you start to get more in tune with who you are so that you can actually feel her. Okay. I'm sorry, Carrie, but you've told me about the chihuahua. Okay. I lost my 18-year-old cat. Oh, that's no good, Dee. Now, Kerry, I really love that you've actually shared this. A Facebook friend that I didn't know, it was sudden, and the lady was a healer. I was upset. That's such a beautiful realization for everyone to understand. You don't have to have an intimate, immediate family connection for you to be upset and to grieve someone that you don't know. People come into your life for a short time, a long, a season, a reason, or for life. And it's really important for us to understand and to process that properly. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. As I said, I've got an upset eye and a little bit of a sore throat. But anyway, that's so great, Kerry, for sharing that. Thank you so much. It's so important for people to understand that we grieve and suffer. Now, I'm sure, Kerry, that if you had told a lot of friends that you were upset and grieving over this person that you didn't know very well, a lot of them would have said, don't be ridiculous. You didn't even know her. Why are you feeling that way? Why are you acting that way? We need to understand that no one else knows how you feel. No one else, even if they've had a similar loss, excuse me again. As I said, the show must go on. Let me have my green juice. So, as I said, the show must go on. So it's really important that we understand this point. We don't know how someone else feels. We don't know what the relationship with this other person was, place or thing. We literally need to allow the person to tell us, right? And we don't bring our beliefs or our cliches into the conversation. I know it's not easy because it's so easy to be dismissive. And it's so easy for us to say things because we've said them for centuries and centuries and centuries. But now is the time for us to stop and think about what we're saying where loss is concerned, especially when we want to be there for other people. Okay, I'll keep going on with these comments. Thank you, Carmen. I lost my two best mates and then my nephew and my mum and didn't know for 3 months. That's really sad, Dee. Thank you for being here and honouring yourself. Okay, Dee. At the end of here, I've got a book that I'm going to share for everyone to download. It may be good if you actually read the book. It may help you with all of the loss that you've come. Thank you, Dee. I appreciate you. Okay. Now, Gina, just so you don't understand, I am not a clairvoyant medium, right? I'm a beyond loss mentor. So I will not tell you if your dad is connecting with you, okay? Yes, I am on the spiritual events directory, but I do not do readings, okay? Occasionally I will have guests with me who may do a reading depending on what they do. So it's really important that you understand I'm here to help people to know how to move beyond loss. I'm not here to connect people with their loved ones on the other side. There's plenty of other people that do this on these shows. So I hope everyone understands that. Okay, thank you, Kerry. Yeah, I'm so glad you made that comment. I really am. Okay, so let's continue on. So here we were. Yep, back here. I'm getting pretty good at these buttons now, aren't I? Okay, so the next thing I want to share with you is the reason is Kubler-Ross. Now, I am not about to knock Kubler-Ross. She did this amazing research on the 5 stages of grief, okay? And what she found was exactly what we were all doing. But the main reason why we were all doing it that way was because of these beliefs and these cliches that we've been doing for centuries and centuries. Now, if you've seen the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief, they go from denial to anger to bargaining to depression and then to acceptance. And she clearly states that you don't go from one to the other. You will go through all of them, and you may not go through them in that order. You'll go through them several times. And then, of course, you will go from the event happening to acceptance after whatever amount of time. It could be a week. It could be 20 years. It could be for the rest of your life. And that's why I'm here to help people to understand that what Kubler-Ross found was exactly the way we were grieving and suffering, but it doesn't have to be that way. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to follow that trait. When we are educated to know how to move beyond loss, any kind of loss, we can dismiss time. We could do, what I was sharing with you, not today, but over the next few weeks. We could actually go through the 5-step process within hours of the loss event. Will we? Probably not. But what we will do is we will know that it is our choice to move at any time. And when we choose to do it, we will not be disrespecting our loved ones on the other side, or our ex-partner here, or our ex-life, or our ex-job, or anything. What we will be doing will be learning how to take this pivotal moment, whatever this loss event was, and as I shared earlier, there are over 40 different loss events, and we will be creating our life in the future. There's so many times in our life that loss comes to visit. And when we take the time to stop and look at it and figure out what it means for us now and moving forward, we really can realize that maybe we've drifted a little bit off track, or we've stayed too long in one position. Our life is a journey. It's not just that we stay the same forever. Okay. So the cliches that I spoke about, which are the cliches that we have been hearing about for centuries and centuries and centuries, and they really do not help us, because people say these all the time. Things like, get a hold of yourself. The living must go on. You can't fall apart. Oh, I can't read that one. It's because be thankful you have. Now, believe it or not, someone actually said that to me at Dan's funeral. Be thankful you have 2 other boys. Seriously? I understand that they didn't realize what they were saying. I knew that they were uncomfortable. And to be quite honest, I'm going to share with you later what to say when you are uncomfortable and you don't know what to say. Because now is the time for us to go, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. The living must go on. Like, seriously? We understand that. We don't need you to tell us that we need to keep living. Okay? Putting those thoughts out there and putting that energy out there is probably not all ideal. We understand how you feel. Now, I mentioned this earlier, right? No one understands how you feel. I don't understand when I meet someone else who has lost their son or their child. I don't understand how they feel. I have an idea that I may understand how they feel, but I can only relate to how I felt. It doesn't mean they're going to feel exactly the same way as what I did. They had a different, unique relationship with their child or their loved one, right? And it's really important that when we understand this, we can actually be there for people. We can be there for ourselves. And we can live and love our life. And the last one is, you've got to be strong. I don't know. Sure, I was a strong woman, when Dan passed. I was a CFO of a publicly listed company. So sure, I knew how to be tough. I knew how to be strong. But did I want to be? What if I wanted to go down there? You don't have people telling you things like that. Okay. Right. We'll come back to that because now I'm going to go back to here. I'm getting used to all these buttons now, can't you tell? I'm going to go back and I'm going to answer some more questions because I really want to, okay, I think I was back here. Kerry, yes, thank you, Carmen. Okay. Thank you, Dee. I like my philosophy too. And I honestly believe that this should have been taught to us all at school. Would we have valued it? Maybe not. But you know what? It would have been like that little maths equation that you may use once or twice in the next, 60 odd years or 80 odd years of your life after leaving school. But when you need it, you go, wait a minute, what was that? What was that? How do I look it up? Like, what do I do? And I'm sure that what would have happened is we would have, because there's over 40 different loss events, we wouldn't have even had to wait that long to figure it out. Because loss comes to us all the time. It may not be a death of a loved one or a marriage breakdown, especially when you're teenagers. But let's face it, a lot of teenagers, we lose friends. Similar to what we were talking about earlier, when I was 17, my boyfriend at that time, one of his mates passed, or his mate didn't pass away, his mate's brother passed away. Now, I never even knew the guy. But the effect that had on our whole community, it stuck with me for the rest of my life. And then when my boys, 30 years later, or not that long, probably 20 years later, were starting to drive and stuff, I was always on them, be careful, because that boy passing from a car accident really stuck in my mind on how fragile life is. So we do have loss throughout our lives. Most of us have lost our grandparents, if not our parents as well, depending on how old you are. So loss does come. All you need to do is look at nature. Every year, every season, they come and then they stay for a while and then they go. So we constantly, through nature, we can see the cycle of love and loss and life and death. So it's important for us to realize how loss is just a part of our lives. And I'm going to share with you this beautiful story, which I just love. So there's a little country called Bhutan, Bhutan. It's in between India and China, and it's sort of similar to Tibet, and before the Chinese took over Tibet. And excuse me, I'm going to take another little sip. As I said, the show must go on, so I'm here. Right. So you have to put up with me every now and then having to take a sip. So what it is they, from a very young age, this Bhutan is the Bhutanese people are actually classed as the happiest people in the world. It's only a small little country, right? But all of them are really, really happy. And they've put it down to the fact that they actually meditate on their death from a young age. Now, this is incredible when you think about it, okay? Especially people, we're in the, the modern Western countries. That would be the last thing we think of. Like, meditation is the last thing most people think of. Though personally, I do love my meditation practice. So what they do is they meditate from a young age on their actual passing so that they're never scared of death. And because they're not scared of death, they take all of those action steps so that they can live and love their life every single day. They're not making any postponements. They're living and loving their life today. Now, how incredible is that? Especially when you think that in the West, we lose someone we love, we grieve and suffer for way too long. I'm not saying that you don't have sadness over them. Like I feel sad. Like just yesterday, my husband and our children and their wives and a friend of mine, we all went out for lunch. Sure, I would have loved to have had Dan there. It's a little sadness that he wasn't there, but I'm not grieving and suffering over him. And that's a difference. So many of us stop our life. We stop living just because they stopped living. And it's time for us to live and love every day. And we know that there'll be love and there'll be loss. But when we know that we can easily move from loss to love and stay in love a little bit longer, we become like the Bhutanese people. We'll become the happiest countries in the world. Does that make sense? I really love some comments. I'm going to keep going. So thanks, Dee, for saying that about my philosophy. I know I'm a little bit like, I've dealt with it and it all alone. My family would help, so I get it. So your family would help or they wouldn't? Okay. Wait on. Have I gone too far? Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, I don't know whether you wrote, I'm sorry for your loss before or after I commented on I'm sorry for your loss, but I hope you understand why I feel it's something that we need to learn how to say better. Okay, I had a breakup, but okay, D, okay. Okay. So as you said, Dee, you have a lot of loss in your life. And at the moment, you're the only comments that I seem to be, okay, wouldn't help. Yeah, I sort of gathered that. Okay, so one thing I've found about family, right, is that we all have our own unique ways of grieving and we all have our unique ways of actually living our lives. If you look at a family unit, like I'm one of 7 children, okay? And if you look at a family unit, everyone's different. And the reason that everyone's different is that's how we create balance in the family unit. If we're all the same, we'd all be a little bit lopsided. And it wouldn't work because we live in a magnetic field and there is always negative and positive and there's always balance between the two. So it's important for us to understand that. So when something happens in our lives, everyone's going to react differently because we're all different and we're all unique, which is cool. So when we know how we can move beyond loss, then we don't require the assistance of others, especially in the family unit, because, and that's my mission, I know it's my mission in life, is to help people to understand this so that they can go, oh, right, this is what I'm doing, this is how I move forward. Okay, so you're talking about what I'm saying is depressive? Whereas I don't see it depressive. I see it as actually it's actually a beautiful way to live and love your life because we understand loss. And loss isn't just death. We went through that 40 plus before. And it's important for us to understand that it could be something as simple as us moving house. There's a loss. Sure, there's a love. We're going to a new place to live, but there's also a loss of the old. And it's about us learning how to not have to grieve and suffer, but to have little rituals and little ways of knowing how to go forward. So yeah. Okay. So I get it that it may seem depressive, but I work around loss all the time. So I don't see it as depressive. I see it as a way of helping people to learn how to live and love their life. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, as I promised, I am going to share with you what to say in any scenario when loss occurs. So it could be where someone is divorced, someone is separating. So often people go immediately to one of the cliches and will say something like, I'll just give it time, you'll get over it. Or it could be something as, well, I never really liked him anyway. Loss of a friendship can affect a lot of people. It certainly has. And to be quite honest, like, I'm in my early 60s. Most of my friends have lost some sort of friendship. I had a fabulous friend. We were friends, for 16 years. And then we had a falling out. And for 21 years, we didn't speak to each other. Though, at the moment, we have been back in each other's lives for nearly 2 years now. And it's great. It's a different sort of friendship, but then we're different people. After 21 years, you would hope you'd be different people. So it is important. A loss of a friendship is huge. It really does, especially if it's your girlfriend. Like, how many secrets do we tell our friends? And how many times do we actually, sometimes we're closer to our friends than we are our families and our partners and things like that, because we probably say things to them that we may not say to others. So it is important that we understand loss. Okay, so the thing to say, right? So let's say it doesn't really matter what it is. This is what you say, right? And how I was on a podcast on a UK guy, and he was saying, he was in his late 20s, I should say, early 30s. And he said to me, Karen, I was at a funeral. This is like a couple of months ago. This is back in January. So when we could actually go to funerals, right? And he said to me, Karen, I was at a funeral and it was a friend of ours. He'd committed suicide. And we were all standing around. There was a big group of us standing around going, we should go and say something to his parents. Like, we all know them. What are we going to say? And he said, and they're all saying it in different ways and saying all of these different things. And he said, can you please tell me what to say so that next time I will say? And I said, look, there's one thing you can say, right? And he goes, okay, what is it? And I said, that's what you say. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, all your friends were standing around and they were saying, I don't know what to say. I said, that's what you say to the person. You walk up to them and you say, I don't know what to say. I'm lost for words. I don't know what you're feeling. I've never experienced anything like this, but I want to be here for you. So can you please tell me the best way that I can be here for you? And then you stop talking and you start listening. But you start listening not to answer, not to respond. You start listening so that they can talk and they will share with you how you can be there for them. Because you can say that in any scenario, but what's going to be different is the way that the people respond. Because everyone's unique. Every relationship is unique. So if someone had said that to me at Dan's funeral, they would have got a different response if they had said it to my husband, Dan's father. because we both have unique relationships. Does that make sense? So start typing in and sort of like, just let me know if that makes sense. And if that is a better thing to say for you than saying something like, I'm sorry for your loss. Which, I don't know if you've ever noticed, when people say that, it's like their mouth has said it. There's no feeling behind it. They're uncomfortable and they just sort of blurt it out. Think back to the last time you may have said it. Does it make sense? Because I feel that once people start to have honest conversations, and that's a pretty honest conversation, isn't it? I don't know what to say. You know, like those boys, all of them were standing around saying, I don't know what to say. Tell me what to say. Tell me what to say. But when you just say it, just say, look, I'm lost for words. I don't know how you feel. I've never experienced this. I can't possibly know how you feel. But I want to be here for you. I just think that is the most easiest and the most sanest response to anyone. Just for example, your friend came up to you and said, look, Joe and I are separating. You know, so many people go, I never really liked him anyway. You know, like, I don't get that either. Like, seriously? You've just hung out with this couple for years. You obviously know them if the fact that she's telling you that they're separating, and you're going, I never really liked him. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean the past, however long, many years were just didn't mean anything? Like you just hung out with him because of her and you didn't like him? You know, it's about us thinking about what we say. Okay, just a sec. I'm going to have a sip while I read this. I don't know what you mean, Dee. So you've told me that you've lost your father. You've told me that you've lost a whole lot of people, but you're telling me that no one has ever said anything to you in regards to your loss. No one came up to you at their funerals and no one said anything. Is that what you're saying? I'm just going to have to wait for the answer. Okay. So was anyone else want to ask me any questions in regards to loss? Any of the loss events? Anything? Because like I'm here for the next, what's that? 17 minutes. Is that right? 17, 27. No, 17 minutes. So I've allocated this time, and I will be sharing things that you can actually do and how you can move beyond any of your losses, Dee, because it does sound like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you are still grieving from a lot of them. There's a lot of the time, I love to break down a lot of different words, and I feel that, sometimes there's, we can get into that game, sort of like a blame game sort of thing, whereas we want people to be there for us, but when they are, we don't really want to be there for everyone. So yes, Dee, okay, so that makes sense. So what you said was everyone left you alone and friends stopped coming around. And that happens a lot. You will actually find out who your friends are and who they are. And that's okay, because there are pivotal moments, and maybe it's time for you to, lovingly say goodbye to some of those relationships, because, people come in and out of your life all the time. So it is important for us to understand that when we are grieving and suffering and being negative all of the time, a lot of people just don't want to be around you because you're not living and loving your life. And I'm not saying you have to be dancing on tables and kicking your hands up and all that sort of stuff. And I'm glad to hear that you don't blame anyone. That's great, Dee. But what it is sometimes people just can't be around you because you're sort of stuck on that and you're not moving forward, because that's what life is about, is us continually journeying, stepping forward and becoming that person. And look, I haven't spoken to you, so I don't know the scenario. So I'm just surmising here. I'm not putting it back to you. I'm just generalizing. So please take these comments not to you personally, because I don't know you. And it's really important that everyone understands that. If we had a one-to-one conversation, it may be a different conversation to what I'm doing now. So your friends are gone, but your kids who grew up with my loss. I'm not understanding that. But yeah. Okay, so your friends have gone. So where are you at the moment in regards to all your loss events? Do you feel you're still grieving and suffering? Do you feel that you would like to come to love and gratitude in relation to everything? Thanks, Kerry. Before you go, seeing you've got to go now, I'll just quickly move on to the next slide then, because what it's about is I've actually written a little ebook, which you may want to download, especially UD. You can grab the ebook at karenchaston.com/life after loss, with the dashes in between the after and the loss. Because this is where I go through in detail all the different loss events. I also share with you how, these things that stop us from living and loving our lives. And also I have a webinar on every month, which is this, it's a similar website. It's just karenchaston.com/webinar. And maybe, as I said, it's time for people to understand this. And the way we understand it is to educate ourselves about it. That's the only way we understand everything, is through education. And also trial and error. We get to say, well, that does work for me and that doesn't. Yeah. Okay, I understand what you're saying. So it is about us working through our relationship, our past relationship. So let's take, for example, you and your mum, Dee. Do you feel that you've come to a loving place in relationship to your mum? Or do you feel you're still grieving and suffering? Only you can answer the questions, and I don't expect you to type into the chat unless you want to. Because it's really important for us to say, if we're still grieving and suffering over any loss event, whether it's a death, a divorce, a job loss, your health, your wealth, your pets, and any of the 40 plus different loss events, it's time for us to say, well, how can I complete that relationship? And how can I learn how to live and love my life? Because you're here for a purpose. You're here to live and love your life. We're not here to get stuck. We're not here to grieve and suffer. We are here to experience life. And part of life, there is loss. And part of life, there is love. So when we lose these loves in our lives, we lose them through a loss event. And it's about us coming back to love. It's not about us settling. It's about us knowing that we are here to live and love our life. That's why I've called my business Live, Love by Design, which is really quite simple when you think about it. And that's why I've written a book on how you can, life after loss. It's so important. But, think back. When was the first loss event in your life? You were probably fairly young. You certainly, if you're honest with yourself, you probably would have been, your first loss event happened maybe before you were 20 or before you became an adult. My grandfather passed when I was 13. My uncle passed 6 months before him. My mother was always convinced that my grandfather passed because he died from a broken heart. And I always think of Fafa. I always think, is this why I'm so passionate about helping people to learn how to live and love their life and not to stop loving their life, to, to really, really learn how, because no one wants to die from a broken heart. What do you feel? Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left for my show today. So I'm going to stop talking for a little while. There doesn't seem to be a lot of people, unless I'm not seeing all of the comments. But I really would love you to share with me your thoughts and, anything that you'd like to share with me about what I've shared today. What I'll put up is I'll put up some different ways that you can connect with me, through Facebook, through my websites, KarenChaston.com or livelovebydesign.com, Facebook groups. There's so many ways that you can connect. Okay, Dee, I'm looking forward to getting the book. Oh, wow. No, Mum and I never got along, but I would have been there for her. Now, isn't that, that comment happens so many times. And I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of people, and they think that they come to me to help them to get through their divorce. And so many times when we go through the process on how you can come to love and gratitude and learn how to live and love your life, what happens is we do a process, and it comes back more often than not that the first loss event that they would love to move beyond comes back to their parents or their siblings. It's amazing how when we grow up, we take on things, whether it's our beliefs or we see a situation the way that, through a child's eyes, which isn't always the exact same way of what it is. So what happens is we are not really, we don't have the most ideal relationship with people because of things that we may have done or said, or they didn't said, or we misunderstood, or they misunderstood. But this process assists you to be able to have a healthy emotional relationship in regards to these people, places, or things moving forward. And that's what I love about it. Thank you so much for sharing so much today, Dee. It really has been a pleasure having you on here with me. Because I've realized, there doesn't seem to be a lot of other people, even that all the comments aren't coming through into StreamYard for me to see. But I am, loving it. I'd love, do you have any more questions? I'll go back and I will share the book, because it is a really good book. My whole thing that I love to share is all about how to live, life after loss, because that's what it's about. Loss event occurs, and then, it's about looking at your life and going, well, what is my life going to be like now? Because it's never going to be the same. So often that's what causes us to grieve and suffer, is the fact that we want it to be the same. We want to go back to yesterday where it was so much better. But that's not what life's about. Life's a continual journey. And as I said earlier, we are the only person we are going to be spending our entire life with. So the first person that the most ideal person for you to really love is yourself. So many times we don't. Yeah. Can I send details to your email? I don't know, Dee, do I have your email address? I'm not 100% sure. Let me just type this link into the comments all by itself, and then you can copy it from the link. Just let me hit enter. All these buttons we got here. There, has that gone? Can you see it? Yeah, it's there. Yeah, everyone wants to be happy again. I totally agree, Dee. And it is sad. Like, so many times we give up on our life, because we're not, because we are grieving and suffering. And that's what I love about what I do. It is about helping people to be happy again and to, it starts with loving you. Because when you do love you, you eat better, you exercise, you are more conscious of what you say, like to yourself and to others. You are just the way that you look at the things you read, the people you hang out with, you realize that, life is too short to be hanging out with some people. And you also get to go, I'm going to set my boundaries on this because this doesn't work for me. This causes me grief. Now, I'm pretty sure I've got a few minutes. Yep, I've got 5 minutes left. Okay. So what I really love to share is Wayne Dyer. Like, he's one of my favorite modern day philosophers. And one of the things that he used to share this story that the message on his phone was something like this. This isn't the exact words. I'm going to share it for you. So he said, "Hello, I'm sorry I missed your call. My whole aim in life is to be happy. So if what you're about to say is not going to make me happy, please don't leave a message. But if it is going to make me happy, I would love to talk to you. So leave a message, your name and your phone number and what it's about, and I'll get back to you." Now, how amazing is that for a voicemail message? I just think it's so cool that he actually told people, my whole aim in life is to be happy, and I don't want you to disrupt that. So don't. It's that simple. And when you look at life like that, so many times things are so simple that we overcomplicate them by trying to interpret things probably the way that they weren't. And there's one thing that I really love. I don't know what that means. I've given up my matriarchal passion to an ex-new girlfriend who had a new baby to someone else. Okay. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Matriarchal. Is it? I'm not sure what the matriarchal was. It position? Anyway. D. Please download the book. There'll be contact details in there. Read it, and then if you feel like it, reach out. That's all I can say. I personally think it's a great book. I am going to run out of time in 2.5 minutes. So it is about. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do love Wayne Dyer. I've learnt so many things in my journey, in the past 9 years since Dan's passing. And look, I did everything the wrong way when Dan passed. I went straight back to work. Everything I share with you is the opposite of what I did because I went looking. I went looking for a better way for other people to be able to move beyond any kind of loss. Hi, Claire. Nice to see you here. How are you in Melbourne? I am sending you love and blessings. I am hoping that everything is okay for you. Okay, I understand that. What you mean now, Dee. Thank you. Claire, I hope you are finding ways to be positive, to be upbeat, to dance around your home and to be living and loving your life in some way. I don't know what you're going through. I live on the Gold Coast, so I have no idea. And I'm sure the media don't know what most people are going through in Melbourne either. They just share their things. Oh, good. I'm glad you're loving lockdown. See, there is always positives to everything. And it sounds like you've chosen to do it. Okay, ladies, I know I've got any more questions before I go. Next week, I will be here with the amazing Alan Stevens. So please come here. Alan is a face profiler and communications specialist. And he'll also be going, he's also the founder of the Campfire Project, where he initially was helping men to actually have conversations, but now he's opened up the community to both men and women. Amazing conversations through his Facebook group. So please join me next Monday from noon till 1 p.m. I'm pretty sure you will love Alan as much as I do. He is always a barrel of laughs. He'll always do everything. And that's it. I'm here. And thank you for being here for the past hour. And I'm so glad I showed up, even though I do have a sore eye and a croaky voice. So stay well, look after yourselves, and remember, you are the most important person in your life. Bye for now, and I'll see you next week.